Okay, I'm Dr. Tyson Furr, and this is a video about relationships, dating, intimacy, and all things that make the social animal we are. And I'd like to start off by establishing a little credibility first and put some people at ease. That I'm not out to sell you anything. I don't have a political agenda. I am not going to give you pop psychology. I'm not going to talk about anything that's invasive or hateful or has a bias. I'm a clinical psychologist, a licensed clinical psychologist. I'm held to a certain standard, and I have to renew that standard all the time. And I'm also an employer of therapists. I train people and help them get licensed and train them, supervise them. And as a psychologist, I have worked with kids and people of all ages and with individuals mostly, but a lot of couples, and conflict resolution, which should be another video all unto itself. I've worked in tons of hospitals, working with geriatric politicians and all sorts of health conditions, cancers, chronic pain, you name it. I've worked with a lot of physical health conditions. I've worked in acute mental health problems with psychotic people, all the way with veterans, and so I have a breadth of background of work, but also as a researcher. I've done tons of research I wouldn't say tons, but I've done a lot of research. I've done a ton of hours of research doing psychotherapy research, what makes psychotherapy work and that kind of thing, research on what makes therapists and clients have better outcomes. But also as in social psychology, not only was I a professor of social psychology, which looks at the individual in a social situation and studies the science of that, but I've done research on in social psychology as well, and including and social psychology is really great because it talks about things like social issues like, do guns kill people, do opposites attract, that kind of thing. And my undergraduate mentor was probably the most decorated psychologist in the U.S., having won the American Psychological Association's Distinguished Writing, Teaching, Research, and Lifetime Achievement Awards. So I'd like to think that I have something to stand on, and I'm here to deliver research. I have a message for you. We're not in the Dark Ages anymore, and we're well past the Enlightenment. And so a lot of people have advice and thoughts about what makes dating, sex, and relationships work. And there's research on it, and I'm here to help you and drive you to services, drive you to my website. So if you can subscribe and like the video, that would be great. But I just want to rest assured that I'm not giving advice. I'm not trying to sell you anything or do anything invasive or say anything about any group or say one thing's better than another. I'm just here to tell you what science says, and it's represented by research from accredited institutions with wonderful reputations, accredited by the APA, and whether it's a traditional black university with black researchers or different types of universities, they all meet the same standards and they all come up with the same results because it's based in science, There is no agenda here other than helping people. So let's cut right to it. The first thing that we're going to talk about is attraction and what makes people attracted to each other. And people will say, like, they do the research and ask people, like, what do you like in somebody? And like, oh, I like somebody with a good sense of humor, or like, I like somebody who's caring. Well, the number one predictor of attraction is physical attractiveness. And it's highly relatable. It's not hard to get people to like learn a scale and apply it. And we know what looks beautiful, and we rate it on like a scale, and it's very reliable. And it turns out that attractive people tend to go on dates longer, look into each other's eyes, see each other again. They're easily rated as more attractive, and they tend to get social benefits from it in terms of the way they're treated and paid. And preschoolers who are like young and pretty, well, if they're preschoolers, they're obviously young, but if the more attractive the preschooler, the more preferential treatment they get. Babies look longer at pretty faces. And so not only that, but people of different attractiveness levels tend to match. There's a reason why the Angelina Jolies and the movie stars and the Brad Pitts all tend to date each other, because they match. People who are overweight or average tend to match. And this is not, again, any sort of comment or anything like that. I'm just telling you what the reliable research produces. And so, like, what about what's in it for the rest of us then? The rest of us who are not movie star looking people. Well, the good news is that there are factors that make us really attractive to other people without being a movie star. And beauty fades over time. Certain things do not. Similarity comes in other forms. For example, people who have different values strongly match. Now, people of different backgrounds, religions, ethnicities, life experiences, languages, they tend to like each other more. That's true. Similarity is very attractive. When it comes to all of that stuff, especially things like political values, or if you're like someone who's into philanthropy, or if you have certain lifestyles, if you're a party person, or like you're interested in money, or an academic. All of these different kinds of values tend to align well with each other if you want to be attractive to each other. So, but the attitudes and values can trump all of that other stuff that I'm talking about. That the more you agree with the things that are really valuable to you in life are going to make you much more attractive to someone of similar values, even if you come from different backgrounds and races and that kind of thing. There's a lot to be said for just the fundamental values and the satisfaction of your relationships. Mere exposure. This one is, if you want someone to like you, get in front of them. We tend to like people that we're exposed to. Before the internet, people tended to marry the people in their neighborhoods, the people they saw at church, the people they saw in the corner store. But in a day like that we live in, where you can see people all the time, we tend to like people that we see more often, and whether they're at the office, they're on TV. When people are voting, they tend to like names that they recognize and seem familiar to them. So just mere exposure can make people more attractive. And it's interesting because it applies to other things. Similar research on Chinese characters, which most of the planet doesn't use. Most of the planet will look at a Chinese character and can't make sense of it. But if you expose them to these like Chinese characters briefly and then put them side by side a whole bunch of other ones, we will tend to say we like the ones that we've seen before. They did a similar thing where they would like kind of subliminally flash squiggly shapes on a screen, but a little bit outside of perception. And then they would put it up with a bunch of similarly shaped objects that they've never seen. And they say, which one did you see before? They'll say, I don't know. And okay, well, which one do you like? And they'll point to the one, they tend to point to the one that they've been exposed to before. So, similarity and mere exposure. And referring to that similarity thing, a lot of people ask the question, well, what about opposites attract? Do opposites attract, or do birds of a feather flock together? And the research on this is pretty well established, and it falls in line with everything that I've said, that birds of a feather tend to flock together. Opposites attract, but rarely. And what about the other things that are behavioral that we can do to make ourselves more attractive? One is smile. We like people that smile. There's probably a reason why, like, you see politicians and people on TV or sportscasters or newscasters, they sit there with that smile on their face. It's clearly insincere. They're doing it for the camera. But people know that if they're smiling, they'll be liked more. So what are you going to do? You're going to put the person on the commercial that doesn't smile, or the person that does smile? Well, you're going to put the person that smiles. We also like people that we confide in, that we can tell our deepest feelings to. It's nice when someone knows what you're talking about and will listen to you. And we like those that listen to us. So being able to confide in people makes us more attractive, and them more attractive to us. Now, if you buy into pheromones, which is like your body's natural cologne, not like cologne you buy from the store, but like your body's just natural smell, like that new car smell for some people, like the car just smells that way. Or, like the proverbial realtor cooking like a nice meal before they show a house. Will the smell of somebody, just their natural smell, attract? And if you buy into that, well, the answer is yes, but temporarily, not long term. And now there's the types of relationships. Let's get into the types. So let's say you've attracted somebody. Now you're in a relationship. And what kind of relationships are? Now, broadly, there's passionate love and companionate love. And passionate love is the stuff you have at the beginning, where it's like full of sex and romance and passion, and the highs are high and the lows are low, and it's very fiery, and there's this like strong longing to be together and all that stuff. And it's a wonderful thing, but it doesn't last. And so people get upset when they stop having sex so much, or they start to kind of settle down in terms of like that hot kind of passion. And that's normal. It lasts 6 to 2 years tops. And if you last longer than that, good for you, but that's not the normal experience, and it's nothing to be alarmed about, because what happens is, if you do it right and you meet the right people, then it tends to settle down into something much more firm and long-lasting and grounded, like bedrock versus sand. And it's called companionate love. And it's long-lasting, it's enormously rewarding, and it's why people stick around, because, like people who stick around each other live longer, they enjoy life more. So don't be alarmed if your passionate sex or passionate love evolves into a companion love because it's much more long-lasting, gratifying, rewarding, and will serve you well over time, physically, emotionally, and health-wise, and all of that. Now, if we talk about relationships, in terms of marriage, what makes a marriage work well? We like when all things are final, like whether you buy a car or a house, or if you get into a relationship. Like, for example, like big menus tend to be less satisfying with a dish. Or like if you have too many channel choices, then you tend to be less satisfied than if you have a smaller number. And if you extrapolate that over to relationships, we like it when all sales are final, when it's me and you together and that's it. And when it comes down to like arranged marriages, where you're getting, some cultures practice arranged marriage. And so you're getting people who are complete strangers put together in an arranged fashion, and so versus love. So let's say like the love satisfactions here, the happiness, and the arranged marriage here. If you start to watch it over time, the love marriage happiness and satisfaction tends to go down. Now the arranged marriage, in terms of satisfaction, not necessarily happiness, tends to cross the line, and there's only like a 4.4% divorce rate. Compare that to love marriages, and length of time spent in the relationship. There's a lot of upsides to the arranged side in terms of overall lifetime satisfaction. That's quickly discounted by the Western point of view of arranged marriages, but there's something to be said of that. So we like it like when people are solid and reliable, and we like it. This goes for love and arranged marriages. We like it when people are solid, dependable, people that you can trust. We tend to like people that we can confide in, and that we can share with. Those are the things that make the marriage and the relationships really work for you. Is being solid, reliable, into it. All sales are final, and that you can really share your life with them, and disclose to them, and on all of that kind of posture towards a relationship, versus one where you never know it's going to last, where this is going, that I can't communicate. Half of couples' relationships are often discussing values, communications, and negotiations around those. When it comes down to these relationships, again, lifestyle really matters. Are you smokers, drinkers? Are you health people? Do you have similar kind of values, life points of view, that kind of thing? The things that are complications for a relationship are things like low self-esteem, and which of course therapy can help with, body image, which of course therapy can help with, but also stress. To be able to be reliable when your partner's in stress goes a long way, and when you're stressed, being able to have a partner that can hold that space with you when you're stressed and help you navigate it. Because the good news is that a lot of times these stresses can pass and can be addressed. And if you have somebody there that can help you with that, it makes a big difference. Now, in terms of intimacy and sex, It turns out it's the exact same thing as what makes a relationship work. Can you communicate? Can you disclose? Is the person trustworthy? Is the person reliable? Are they in it for the long term? These things tend to improve the intimacy, not in just dating, but in relationships and marriage. So that's something to consider. I wish I had a silver bullet and come on here and give you pickup stuff. Like you could probably find all that sort of stuff and maybe some more, shall we say, more dramatic advice about intimacy and stuff on other videos. But it's not really going to make a big difference if you're interested in a relationship. Now, how do we get into the relationship? And, there's a lot to be said for showing up. And online kind of helps, but then again, it lends itself to like the menu problem, like lots and lots and lots and lots of choices. There's a lot of people say they wish it was more organic and they would be introduced by their friends, and that's because their friends don't have 10,000 friends to introduce you to. The choices are limited there, and there's some social support behind it. But let's say you want to just meet somebody in general. What often comes, and this is true of most things in life, that we build up mental barriers that get in the way. Yes, there's things like diseases, and yes, there's wars and all sorts of things like that. But you don't need money. You don't need a whole lot of resources to go out and meet somebody. Because a lot of other people don't have a whole lot of money and resources too, and money only goes so far, and we do have access to things that can get us in touch with other people, but a lot of the times it's just the stuff we tell ourselves that prevent us from taking any action, and you can't take any action if you can't establish anything unless you actually show up and get out there. But one of the biggest barriers is shyness and fears of rejection. And one of the famous psychologists, Albert Ellis, he was a Bronx psychoanalyst, and he felt that like it really wasn't helping, and he found CBT, and he lived in the Bronx, and he went down to Central Park, and he said, the first 100 attractive people on that bench, I'm going to ask them out. And he asked out 100 people, and he was terrified of being rejected. And of the 198 said no, and I forget what happened with the other two. I think it was like a no-show or a fake number or something like that. So he didn't get any dates out of it necessarily, but he learned something valuable, which was that the rejection is not the end of the world. And it gave him permission, and, of course, safety first, but it gave him permission to put himself out there. And of course, he eventually got his needs met, but he wouldn't have done it had he not embraced the anxiety. And the anxiety can actually be a good thing. Some people call it butterflies or whatever. But if you can sit there and tolerate the anxiety, it will go down. The more you avoid it, the more it tends to stay the same or even get more and more built up. And, what's wrong with going on a job interview and being rejected? And what's wrong with putting a YouTube out there and nobody watches it? And what's wrong with asking someone out and it going nowhere? And what's wrong with going out with somebody and realizing, this isn't the right fit for me. They don't have the same values or that kind of thing. In a nutshell, that's the research on these things, and these are the things that can help you you can hang your hat on everything I've said. And you can go around and look at other videos and look at some of that more racy stuff, the more flashy stuff. But this is what you can hang your hat on. And I hope you use the knowledge to your advantage, because it comes from a lot of research and experience. And may these guardian angels of knowledge and research and science help you get your needs met. Thank you. Please subscribe and look forward to the next video.